show. We're here at the Future of Jewish Nonprofit Summit in New York City. New technology is sometimes difficult to bring into your organization. With the rise of Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, organizations are still trying to figure out the best way to be effective online and on social media networks. Let's learn more about what are some tools available for organizations and hear from some leaders in the Jewish nonprofit world what they are doing to enhance their organization. In this age, it's really important for organizations to maximize their social outreach. What are some tips that you have for people to engage their constituents, donors, and really be effective in the social media realm?
I think one of the really revolutionary things about Twitter and about Facebook and about social media and social networking in general is that it is an amazing democratizer. It's a way that we can, as Jewish leaders, as people working to try to make the Jewish world a better place, it's a way that we can touch Jews and non-Jews all across the world in a way that would just be unimaginable 20 years ago or even 10 years ago or 5 years ago. And so the key is to really to be able to build a conversation with people, to show them what you're doing, to be interested in what they're doing so that they're interested in what you're doing, and to really be engaged in the Twitter, Facebook world in a way that allows for our constituents, for people that we're trying to touch, to feel like they're there with us and to be engaged with us.
And one of the things that organizations sometimes fail to do is to try. And what are some, I guess, quick tips for organizations that are looking to go on Facebook, to go on Twitter, and not just to go on it, because anybody can sign up an account, but the real challenge is to be effective. So what are some tips that you have for organizations?
I would say that the tips for organizations are to first get your feet wet. You don't need to be a perfect Twitterer or Facebooker to be engaged. You don't need to be Lady Gaga with 4 million followers or 5 million followers or 6 million followers or however many she has at this very moment to be engaged in social networking. Get your feet wet, have some messaging, and go out there. And it can start off by just aggregating what's on your website. If you put up a release about a young leadership event you're doing on Tuesday, put it out on Twitter, put it out on Facebook. As a baby step. You don't need to employ a full-time social media person on day one. You don't need to be tweeting what you're having for lunch on day two. But just start the process and see what happens and engage. Talk to people who are involved in the social media world and see what works for them and see what works for you. And different organizations will have different temperatures as far as how much they want to push this and how engaged they want to be. But it's really, you don't need to have a full-time 24-hour presence to start off. Just jump into the pool, tread a little carefully, and connect, because that's what the 21st century is all about. It's about connecting in a way that would have been impossible just a few years ago. One
of the things that organizations try to do is looking at Twitter. How do you get followers? Like, everyone has their own method. Like, you could create interesting conversations, but to actually start developing a Twitter presence and getting those followers, what are some tips that you can have to actually starting that process?
Yeah, Twitter, there are all different types of people who are on Twitter, and so how you attract followers is a way. It's somewhat of an art form. There's probably a science to it that I'm not aware of, but it's a little bit of an art form. You have, for the most part for me, mostly for people who follow me, I follow them back. People want more followers, and so as a consequence, if someone is following me, I'm doing them the courtesy, generally speaking, of following them back. I have a few exceptions. If someone is a hate monger, and I know it, or a porn star, or clearly a spammer, I don't follow them back. Or if they have 2 followers, I don't feel like I need to be the 3rd follower. Or if they never tweet. There are a lot of people out there who are on Twitter. I call them voyeurs. They're people who are just out there watching the Twitter stream. They want to know what Lady Gaga or Justin Bieber or the news folks are tweeting on any given day, and they don't need to be followed back, so I don't follow them. But for the most part, I think it's a common courtesy to follow people who are following you. I follow people who engage with me. Someone who makes a comment about me or about an article I'm in or about a tweet I am, I'll follow them back. Everybody at this conference, for instance, who uses the hashtag, uses the Future of the Jewish Nonprofit in their tweet, if I'm not following them, I've been sitting in the back of the room following them. It's viral. It's a way to connect again to as many people as you can, and one way to do that is to not be really selfish about who you're following. It really annoys me to no end that someone like an Oprah Winfrey has millions of followers, but she herself is following 100 people. It seems to me that's not a conversation, and Oprah, forgive me, it's not a conversation that she's having, but really it's just standing on a mountaintop yelling down to the people her feelings. And that's really what it's about. It's about engagement, it's about connecting, and to follow those who are following you, and to really, again, try to expand your universe and hope that others will expand theirs. And the key really beyond that is to have content. It's to have something that's worth following. People who are interested in what you're saying, who are interested in the information you're imparting to them. And so if you're just sitting, if you tweet 5 times a day, and you're tweeting quotes from famous people and telling people what you're having for lunch, that's really not exciting and interesting and engaging. You'll be less likely to have followers than if you're out there pushing information that's interesting, if you're pushing information that's edgy, and if you're really, again, having a conversation with your followers.
Okay. LinkedIn is a wonderful tool to engage potential donors, to maximize your social outreach. And it's different than a Facebook and Twitter. It's a professional environment. Talk a little bit about how LinkedIn can enhance a nonprofit organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, well, I'm Nicole Fleming, and I work with LinkedIn's Corporate Hiring Solutions Division. And I spoke today to the Future of Jewish Nonprofit seminar about how to better leverage yourself personally and professionally on the network. At the end of the day, there's kind of 3 main topics to do so, and that's really building your presence and telling your story first and foremost. And the way that you're going to do that is make sure that you have built yourself a good brand image with your personal profile, 100% completeness, utilize status updates, get your message out there to the right groups of people. Second, research and recruit relationships. It's important to add connections to build your network the right way to make sure that your message is getting out in front of the people that you're looking for. Utilize the skills functionality and the basic search features to really make sure that you're connecting with the right individuals and how important they are to you and your organization. And finally, engagement with key audiences. Joining groups, join many, participate in a few, and run one. Also take advantage of following or taking notice of your company page, which is free to create an overview tab that you can edit and maintain and really keep tabs on your brand image on the site. And pay attention to who's following you as an organization, because obviously these people are very interested in you as a company and can potentially be brand ambassadors for you and maybe even talent pipeline for the future. The place to go, if there's one thing that you'll take out of this quick message, is the most important site, learn.linkedin.com/nonprofits. Learn everything about even more what I'm speaking of today and how you can leverage yourself again better personally and professionally on the LinkedIn network.
And one of the great things about your site is that, first of all, user-friendly is very important. People have to be able to understand the best way to position themselves. If I'm new to the social media realm, what are my first steps? Like, how do I become a LinkedIn guru and connect to potential donors, colleagues? What are my steps to start this process?
So first and foremost, just go to the site. So www.linkedin.com. If you're not already a member, create a profile, and again, try to reach that 100% completeness. For basic learning information about how to utilize LinkedIn at all, learn.linkedin.com will help you kind of get through, educate you on what a profile is, how to add connections, and why that's important. But more specifically, again, to the nonprofit sector, you will become a guru by educating yourself. And at the end of the day, that's how you're going to build your best image. Learn.linkedin.com/nonprofits.
Let's talk a little bit about connections. What does it mean to have these connections? And if I'm 2 away or 3 away, what's the best way to build my connections and to understand the best way to build my connections?
Sure. Well, it's important to utilize a number of search functionalities. So at a basic search level, try to connect with everyone that you know. You can import your email, whether it's Outlook, your personal email address, import your contacts, and see if all of those people already exist on LinkedIn. As you build your first degree connectedness, and essentially a connection is someone that, if you're on Facebook, is a friend, if you're on Twitter, is a follower. That's how you're connected on LinkedIn. It's a connection request. It's important to connect to people that you know because that's how you're going to build your network. Essentially, your first degree connections are people that you're immediately connected to. Second degree connections are the people who you are connected to's connections, and so on from there. You're going to get your message out to a very large group of people, and the more individuals that you are connected with, ex-classmates, ex-colleagues, current classmates, etc., friends, family, you're going to grow your network and grow your message. So again, your degree of connectedness is really what defines you on LinkedIn, and that's going to help you get out the message that you're trying to portray.
In terms of fundraising, as a development professionals are trying to get that next level, that fundraising 3.0, what are some tools that you recommend using LinkedIn?
I think that it's important at very least to get your message out there in a number of ways. So there's some really great functionality and integrations with WordPress, Twitter. Build your brand message that way. As far as fundraising goes, you're going to create your story and your ask on your LinkedIn company page, on your profile. At the end of the day, I'm going to draw back to the site. Learn more at learn.linkedin.com. An individual in our organization, Brian Breckenridge, will be able to speak more specifically to some fundraising efforts and what you have available to you today, not only for free, but also some of the corporate solutions that the company has developed specifically for nonprofits to help you kind of reach that end goal.
What's the best part of LinkedIn for you?
The fact that I work there is great. It's a fantastic organization, growing so quickly and really finds itself in its values. Our founder, Reid Hoffman, has instilled some really great values throughout the organization that have trickled down since we were founded in 2003. And it's just a really great company. It's totally changing the way that organizations are hiring, the way that they're branding themselves. It is the number 2 behind Facebook, of course, social media out there, but it is the place to be when you're a professional. So just being a part of such an exciting company, such a fast-growing organization, and to be kind of able to speak about it to people like whoever's listening to this message today is really probably what's most important to me.
Google Plus is something where individuals now are taking a second look. Google has tried to come out with new types of products to compete in the Facebook world. And the question I have for you, is it worth it?
Google Plus, it's been out for about a little over a month, and they've had a huge early adoption. I think over 10 million users, possibly more already, are on it. Is it worth it? It's too soon to tell. I think it's hard to ignore it, and I think if you're not sure if your nonprofit should be on there, well, first of all, your nonprofit really can't be on there yet. You can't set up an organizational or a company brand page yet. You will be able to soon, according to Google. So you can get on there personally, and Beth Cantor suggests spending 15 minutes a day on it just to see how it works, to follow up other conversations, set up your profile, manage your privacy settings, add content, experiment with things like huddles and hangouts, which are group texting and video respectively. So I think it's worth checking out for yourself. The big question is your audience there? Are the people that you're trying to reach through social media hanging out there? Or are they more likely, at this point, they're probably still mostly on Facebook, Twitter, and other networks. So it's worth checking out and seeing, but it may be too soon to tell whether or not you should be investing hours of your time there.
With social media, organizations are still trying to figure out the best way to engage their constituents, their donors, and the global world. For organizations that are just now trying to get into that world, what are some advice you can give them to try to be effective as you start rolling out a social media plan and engagement?
I think if you're just starting out in social media, the rule of thumb generally is to sort of stop, look, and listen. To really see, there's definitely ways you can dive in, but if you're not sure how to spend your time, it's really starting by seeing, again, how your topic that you're trying to reach is being talked about, where your people are, and seeing, what's sticking. and really starting by sort of listening and then maybe engaging with people by commenting on content, sharing information. Building a real community on social media can take a quarter to half time of somebody's job, and it may be a commitment that people aren't ready to make. If you are ready to make it, it's really about being where your community is, and there's lots of great helpful tools out there. One of my favorites, Idealware, put out a nonprofit social media decision guide last summer, and I think it's really helpful. It's got some great worksheets in it.
And whenever you start your process, there are definitely pitfalls. What are some no's? What are some things that you should really avoid?
I think if you're just starting out in social media, the biggest thing to avoid is sort of thinking it's just like every other media or marketing tool you've used before. It's not just for broadcasting. It's not just like, update your Facebook status and think that millions of people will all of a sudden start liking you. It's really about conversation. It's really about listening and being open to feedback. And I think if you treat it just as, blasting out a press release, you're not going to be very successful. And I think also just automatically connecting all your presences, so you say one message and the same thing appears in every channel, isn't great. I think each channel has their own etiquette, their own language, and it's important to really use those tools well and know them. So the biggest thing is to really, again, be where your people are, speak to the message that makes sense in that channel, and really look to build community and engage in conversation.
And there are success stories out there of organizations that have just built from the ground up their awareness. Can you think of one example of an organization that has transcended the way that it would normally reach out to its constituents?
Off the top of my head, the most talked about examples in the nonprofit community tend to be the National Wildlife Federation, the Humane Society of the United States, the American Red Cross. Those organizations have really figured out how to bring social media into the way they do work, not just in their communications, but literally into serving their mission and accomplishing their programs.
And for Jewish organizations, sometimes their missions are sometimes hard to communicate. What's the best way to communicate a mission?
Well, that's a big question. I work at Big Duck, and we really focus on branding, or our approach to branding we call brand raising. And the heart of brand raising is really figuring out what's the big idea you want people to associate with you, called positioning. And I think if you're not sure what that is, it's hard to figure out how to communicate that on Facebook. You've really got to start with who you are and the ideas that you want people to associate with you. The clearer you are about that, the more you can not only be consistent about that, but you can figure out then how to plug into all these tools well.
The future of Jewish organizations is something where people are trying to figure out what is going to happen. What is fundraising 3.0? What is social media? How do I connect to this global environment? What is the purpose of your organization in this conference?
So first of all, thanks for spending the day with us. I really appreciate it. This is the 5th global and 2nd annual in New York Future of Jewish Nonprofit Summit, where we bring together dozens and dozens of nonprofit professionals together with incredible speakers, technology startups, communication professionals, fundraisers, together in a room to talk about the future. Well, what does that mean, the future? It sounds so silly, but in my time spending at both technology companies and nonprofits in the past decade, I realized an opportunity that existed between the two of them. There are so many incredible events going on these days, whether it's South by Southwest or TED or Web 2.0, where you have amazing speakers, innovative ideas, companies starting up. Twitter started at South by Southwest, it was launched there. Things like that. Foursquare, nonprofits weren't in the room. So I said, well, why don't we bring these amazing speakers, these technologies, to Jewish organizations? Jewish organizations should be hearing about these things, should be learning so that they can move forward quickly, especially in a day and age where we are really desperately trying to do more with less. How do you do more with less? You need to spend time and invest in your organization. You need to invest in yourself professionally. That could mean a small financial investment. That could mean learning. That could mean spending time watching videos and reading more. But what you want to do is learn more, because you have to do more with less. You have to get to that point where you can do that. It doesn't just happen overnight on your own. So that's what CASL does. We produce these events, these Future Jewish Nonprofit Summit. You can check out the videos online, vimeo.com/CASL, or you can come to FOJNP.com. We'd love to see you at more events.
And one of the great things about this specific event is that you got a lot of people in the room from different types of Jewish life. And in the community now, I think there's a little bit of panic in a sense that with new technology comes new adaptation, new time that has to be spent on trying to understand what has to happen to be as effective as possible with minimal dollars. What has inspired you? What have you learned from the people that you've met, and especially at this conference, that has reframed certain expectations or understandings of the Jewish world and engaging through social media?
It's a great question. First off, I have met so many incredibly committed professionals in the Jewish nonprofit world, people who go above and beyond, giving of their professional and personal time to give to causes that they truly and honestly believe in, both from the professional and also the lay side. And to that end, they have taken their time to do more with less, like we're talking about. So they've built campaigns that work together with other organizations. They partner in ways that they never had before, so that they could, both gain from it's the same technology platform or certain buying power by buying more, things like that really inspire. Whereas you could see a community dividing more, I think we're trying to come together more, and you can do that through things like technology, social media platforms, where we're coming together socially, but then also this idea of buying power and usage and change. Come to a conference like this and you could see, okay, LinkedIn now provides a nonprofit opportunity for those of us out there to hire the most amazing people we can, and they've developed it in such a way where you can reach out the same way that Ford does on LinkedIn as a nonprofit, but at a hugely discounted price. That kind of idea, as a nonprofit, you need to know about those things to take advantage of them. So we try to provide that.
So this conference was or the summit was really, really cool. Met a lot of interesting speakers. Everyone was so open to talking about what the talks were about, the social media stuff. It was just really interesting topics, and I really enjoyed it. So,
what are you taking away from today?
Today I just started doing a job search after spending a year in Israel, and so a few business cards. But getting kind of handle on what is going on in the Jewish community at this point, trying to find out, learn a little bit firsthand. I want to, get to know actually what's going on, networking and all these kinds of things. And they really taught me a lot of stuff here today. So it's a great day.
Today I learned a lot about the reasons why social media should be integrated in the nonprofit world. I always knew for my personal reasons, Twitter and Facebook were fun and entertaining, but for me, working for a synagogue, we could really get in touch with our consumers, our members, actively and faster if we really do promote and focus our content and getting our messages out using social media.
Yeah, so taking some of the venture capital models and applying it to nonprofit giving, there's some of the shifts that are going on that we need to be cognizant about are the generational shift, how the younger generation is, rather than honoring the legacy of their parents, that's seeding to creating a legacy of their own. We have other shifts going on that are in terms of social impact giving and social venturing, where the people investing money are looking not necessarily only at the dollar return, but the social good that's happening as a result of the investment that they're making. As an example of that, a couple of examples might be, how is my investment helping the poor? How is it feeding more people? How is it educating more people? So social impact investing, or social venturing, is another model that's changing the way the nonprofit world is working. The third shift that I think is important is in terms of transparency and metrics, the coming together of financial metrics with efficiency and other things that show the transparency and efficiency of organizations and the importance of ranking organizations that donors use in order to measure objectively how the recipient organizations are doing compared to other recipients. Some of the models that I think can be used, one model that I spoke about earlier is with regards to a venture model where VCs in Israel have combined or gotten together to donate some of the early equity they receive for their investment to an organization that holds it until that company then has an exit or financial transaction. They give the money at a very low valuation. They sell it at a high valuation, and the organization then takes that money immediately and donates it to social or educational causes. Another way to do that, another alternative for that, is one of the issues that we have today. Many donor recipients are very familiar with how to take publicly traded stock from a donor and then use that to their advantage. The donor receives a tax advantage because he typically bought it at a lower price and donates at a higher price and gets the tax benefit of having given it away at a higher price. There's a problem with privately traded stock. I own a company, I own all the stock. That stock is not publicly traded, there's no market for it. Can a recipient organization use that to its advantage in the same way that publicly traded stock can be used? And the answer is, although most people don't think so, the answer is yes. You can use a program called an Employee Stock Ownership Plan, an ESOP. Although it's a little bit complicated, it's completely above board. You can use an ESOP to take privately traded stock and provide the donor with exactly the same tax benefits that he would have received had that been publicly traded stock. And this way, recipient organizations can use privately traded stock as well. So there are models that we see that come from the world of finance that can be used to bridge some of the gaps that exist today in the shifting world of what it was like then to what it's like now.
JDL.com launched in November 2010 as a group buying site, following the leaders of group buying, Groupon, Living Social, and we cater to the Jewish community, offering the Jewish community seriously surprising deals every day on different stores, opportunities, and kosher restaurants. Recently, we've started working with nonprofits. We're able to market the nonprofits and leverage their donor base and their campaigns and promote events through our group buying model of sending out the campaign for the organization to our database of over 50,000 subscribers. It's been extremely successful with organizations receiving over 2,900 new donors, and whether it's through a specific campaign or a raffle, an event marketing based, JDL is able to help each organization reach new levels.
And one of the amazing things about group buying is its outreach. And what type of things have you seen, sort of effective ways where nonprofits are using this group buying to then bring in new donors?
So we're able to reach out, help the organizations reach out to new donors via social media, whether it's Facebook sharing, Twittering, tweeting the promotions on Twitter. So reaching beyond our 50,000 database of our database subscribers, sharing with their contacts. We also offer incentives to our subscribers that if they share the deal with their contacts and their contacts subscribe to JDL, they then receive incentives from JDL, such as JDL credit for future promotions. So the nonprofits are then receiving new donors and are able to follow up with those donors and hopefully create new support and following up with future donations.
What type of trends have you seen? Obviously, when you're dealing with nonprofits, sometimes you don't know what's going to happen at an event. Can you give us an example of how JDL enhanced an organization?
We've done simple in terms of enhancing it. You give away a ticket to Israel. People see 2 round-trip tickets to Israel. They might have heard of the organization, they may not have. they're going to support the organization and buy that J deal to, one, because they see it's going to a cause, but then there's also it could be a trip to Israel. So it's able to enhance the organization of different incentives of if you do a discounted event, people want to go to the event, they're not sure if they want to spend, but then they go to the event and they see where the money is going for the cause, and they're bought into the organization.
As you can see, it was truly a fantastic event, and we learned a lot about new tools that are available for organizations to maximize their social outreach. This is Aaron Herman. Thanks for watching.